Hey, good evening. This is L.A. Steele. And tonight, we should have Preston Nichols joining us. He's a scientist, and we've had him on the show several times. But I tried to reach him.
Hello?
Hey, Preston, how are you?
All right.
Hi. I was just introducing you. So glad you could be on.
Huh?
So I'm so glad you could be on tonight with us.
Okay. Give me another minute.
Okay. All right. Preston Nichols is a scientist and in the field of electromagnetics, and he also, for those who may not know him, you can, if you Google him up, you'll see a number of interviews with him regarding the Montauk Project and books that he's authored with Sky Books with author and editor Peter Moon. And you can get that at skybooks.usa.com. Preston is a usual fellow in the sense that he's been involved with a number of government projects.
Okay.
Hey, Preston.
Hello.
How are you? Hey, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just telling the audience that a lot of the endeavors that you've been in and many years of research you've done in electromagnetics, and of course sound recordings and radio and a number of other areas. But tonight I thought we could talk about your favorite subject, which is electromagnetics, but also what we discussed earlier today, which was the how these solar storms that are coming, as well as the polar shift that's happening, is going to affect, or already is, or is going to affect us in the near future.
Yep.
Can you explain some of that, some of the effects that we could possibly be seeing?
Well, we seem to be having almost continuous solar flares at this point. What's believed in the scientific community is that we're building up to some sort of a major solar event. What I'm being told by people from NASA is we may be building up to like a continuous 360-degree CME. That's corona mass ejection. If we get that, we could be in trouble.
Corona mass ejection, what does that mean exactly?
Well, the sun has a corona around it, which is basically built of like a plasma.
Right.
It's mostly hydrogen, nitrogen, not nitrogen, helium, stuff like that. You know, it's a gas corona, highly charged, and it has a mass. What happens is generally you get a magnetic storm on the sun, on the corona of the sun, and that causes part of the corona to be ejected out into space.
Oh.
Now, when you get the magnetic storm, you get a wave front, a very broadband EM wave front that comes out at the speed of light, which reaches Earth in a few minutes. Now, the corona mass is much slower, and that comes later. Now, the corona mass is generally deflected by the Earth's magnetic field, the magnetosphere, and what happens, it gets pushed out, and then it goes into the poles. That's why you have northern and southern aurora borealis.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because that's from the charged particles coming from the sun being funneled into both poles. Now, so far, we haven't had a big enough CME come at the Earth that the hardening of the ionosphere being done by what is called HAARP, and there's also a bunch of other transmitters they're working on. It's like a worldwide project. along with all the aluminum powder they've been dumping in the atmosphere so far, it's been keeping the extremely dangerous stuff out. We've lucked out so far.
Now, how long? Now, as far as I can tell, the first chemtrailing and seriously began about 1998. And,
it was known that this was coming.
Yeah.
This has been expected for years.
Oh, okay. I see. Now, what is the throwing this aluminum particulate up there, along with the barium salt and whatnot, that and there have been other things that have been noted as far as what they're putting in there is spraying, but primarily it's barium salt and aluminum oxide, I believe. These particulates are causing extremely hazardous to human health. Is there? What's their rationale for using this kind of particulate? Aluminum, especially, causes Alzheimer's and everything else.
As what was said to me when I brought up the same question when I was a consultant to the HAARP project. What's better? To have a little bit of problem from the different aluminum compounds, or to be baked to death, to have the earth just parched and baked? Wow. See, I was hired as a consultant for the HAARP project to try to make the signals as human-friendly as possible. And I'm sure the same thing has been said about the aluminum oxide and the aluminum powder and the magnesium powder that they've been dumping in to reflect the sun's heat out. Right. Because whether we caused it or not, global warming is real, folks. It's there. It's happening. I'm not that convinced that it isn't some part of a natural cycle. Hence, we're now seeing this constant solar flare business.
Right.
And that could turn into a massive CME as well.
Why isn't there more? Well, it's probably not to panic the people, but there's so many people that are questioning these chemtrails now and seeing it and seeing our skies polluted like this. So little, and nobody's saying anything. Government, they're denying the fact that they're happening even. And there's no military efforts or whatever to do this, to do the chemtrails. But I mean, anybody with any eyesight, normal eyesight, can see them being done, and can see them blocking out the sun and causing a tremendous amount of. I mean, is it chemtrails, basically cloud seeding, that's causing the weather problems that we're seeing, or is it the sun? Is it the solar action that's happening that's causing this all of the weather patterns to be so screwy?
Most likely it's a combination. You can't take any of these semi-natural phenomenons and tie it down to one thing. You got to remember, the Earth's biosphere is an extremely complex function, and it's hard to say what is causing what at this point.
Right.
Like, I know global warming is real, but I do not believe mankind is the only input that's made the global warming. We don't have enough effect on the biosphere. It's got to be something huge like the sun.
Right.
But what we've done hasn't helped the global warming.
No. By ridding the planet of these, by destroying the tropical rainforests, by destroying these so much of our global forests, as this has got to be playing some having an effect on the weather patterns, isn't it?
Well, if anything, it's reducing the oxygen content of the atmosphere, if anything.
Right. But they're saying that there's too much CO2 in the air right now. That's the whole global warming complaint.
Yeah, of course there is.
Yeah. There's too much CO2.
But that's only part of the mechanism.
Right.
Look, last year, I was measuring the luminosity of the sun. Last year, it was about 5 lumens per millimeter. That's what my instruments are calibrated in.
Okay.
The other day, when it was so hot and the sun was so bright, I went out and I measured it again. It was like 15 to 20 lumens per millimeter, I mean.
Wow. So
the output of the sun in the visible spectrum, that's what these instruments I have measure.
right.
We're not talking about ultraviolet. We're talking about visible light. The output of the sun on any given day is up at least 3 times to what it was last year. Now, to me, that is alarming.
Yeah, it is.
And,
Extremely.
Cloud seeding, the CHEMTRAILS, HAARP project really does not affect any of that.
Okay. It
There's
doesn't
no
have any.
question the sun is getting brighter and hotter for whatever reason.
Right.
And we're seeing much more solar activity, although actually the sunspots are down. But we're getting more solar flares,
I see.
which is almost like an exact opposite of a sunspot.
So
One is made by a North Pole and the other is made by a South Pole. I forget which is which.
But in essence, if we are baking here, I mean, we can look forward to another year or two of this. I saw something today. I read an article today that just came out about NASA saying that predicting or warning actually about these solar flares or this heating up of the sun.
This is not unknown.
No. But I mean, it's just suddenly, it's interesting that it just came out today, from as far as a main news item. But I was kind of surprised that, the article that I read said that it happens about two to three times in a person's lifetime, every 20 or 30 years or so. That this happens with the sun. Is that correct or not? Or is
to some extent, we haven't had a period like this since the 1850s. When we had a EMP from a CME come in here and basically burn up every telegraph station on the continent.
Wow. I didn't know that.
It was 1856 or 1859.
It burned up every telegraph station on the continent?
Oh, yeah. That's very well known. The actual coils in the telegraph repeaters and the telegraph sounders were going on fire. Of course, at that time, we didn't have a power system to go belly up either. All we had then that was electric was the telegraph. And they also said that in some areas, the telegraph wires are actually melting off the poles.
My God. Oh, God.
And, of course, what's interesting to note is right around the 1850s is when we had all sorts of plagues. Disease plagues.
A lot of plagues, you said?
Yeah, right. A lot of diseases. I wonder how much of that came from the EMP.
Oh, that's true. Well,
now, of course, we're headed for the same thing again. And basically, this event is supposed to totally eclipse the 1859 event.
Oh, man.
What's interesting to note, the sunspots have an 11-year cycle. And 2012 is a max. The minimum was like 2002, 2003. Now, the EM and the sunspots were stronger in the minimum, this past minimum, than noted in all the maxes going back that they were recording. Which makes me wonder, when we get to actually peak in 2012, what's going to come around?
Yeah, that's frightening as hell, because, I mean,
I know it's frightening as hell.
Yeah. If it could actually burn.
Especially with the way we rely on electronics for our our infrastructure.
For everything, yeah.
If we got even the same event as we got in 1859, This is not me talking. This is a physicist out of NASA on the History Channel. If we get that same event coming, it'll probably wipe out every electrical system in the world and probably destroy most of the computers. The computers are based upon what we call CMOS, complementary metal oxide silicon semiconductors. And there, it takes only a few volts to blow those junctions out. And if you have 5 feet of wire connected to a CMOS device, and you get a EMP equivalent 1859, you're probably going to see hundreds of volts across those junctions. That's the end of them.
Oh, my God.
Which means probably most of the computers on the planet will die a horrible, painful death.
Oh, no. Oh, wow.
And then you're going to find that the lights are going to go bright and then go out.
Hmm. So we'll be, and all the electrical systems are all computerized.
Yeah.
The grid, you also, I mean, we're looking at some serious, we're looking at complete and utter global chaos here. You know,
this could be what the ancients were predicting for 2012.
I wonder.
Is a electronics infrastructure destruction.
Well,
although at the same time, when you get a massive electromagnetic storm, plasma storm coming in from the sun, it does pass a current from north to south pole. And you can probably say, what is the crust of the earth mostly made of? You know?
What is that?
Quartz.
Quartz?
Quartz.
Why was that? That's what the crust of the earth is made of?
Mostly quartz. 90% quartz the crust of the earth is made of.
I have no idea.
And what's the electrical properties of quartz?
My God.
You know what piezoelectrics is?
No.
That's where you run a current through a piece of quartz crystal, so to speak. And the quartz itself actually deforms. If you take a quartz crystal and hook a pair of wires, one at each end, to a light bulb and slam it with a hammer, the light bulb lights.
Huh.
Now, if you're getting a massive current going between the poles, it's going to distribute over the skin of the earth, and every little piece of quartz is going to go, ooh!
Nice.
And that's going to, most likely, that's going to trip earthquakes, volcanoes.
Oh.
This could be why we're having earthquake and volcanic activities coming up much more than we have in the past.
I wondered about that. And, you know, going back to the HAARP program for a minute, there's...
The HAARP project is only a little firecracker compared to the sun.
Oh, I'm sure, but there are, I mean, there's a lot of talk. There's been a lot of, I've read a number of articles on this in the last probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, that there's actually, I mean, Russia and the United States are both using this kind of, weather modification, and HAARP, actually, the HAARP program, is being used to create weather patterns and basically for advantages in war, and they're also using it what's called the woodpecker effect. All right, and they're directing it on different parts of the world. In fact, there's speculation that even the Fukushima earthquake, all right, was caused by the HAARP program, and that direct not beam, but I guess beam, directing that beam of electromagnetic on that area, on that specific area. Now, does that sound like something they would be capable of doing? Creating
I don't
earthquakes?
think the HAARP program by itself has that capability.
Oh. Okay.
Because there isn't enough power involved.
Really?
The power to actually get down underground and jiggle everything underground is huge.
I agree, but now you know this very well, that the amplification of the waves, amplification of sound, all right, is being, and I saw this a while back on regarding the HAARP program, and how by amplifying the sound waves, it can penetrate thousands of miles into the earth. Okay.
If anything, what penetrates into the earth is extremely low frequency electromagnetics. You know,
well, that's what they claim.
EVLF, which HAARP does not transmit.
It doesn't.
HAARP covers a frequency range of 3 megahertz to 29 megahertz, maybe 30.
But if
There's no way I can see that HAARP would produce even ELF.
Huh.
This has to be a different mechanism from somewhere else.
Oh, I see. All right, not HAARP. Okay, because they're claiming that this particular.
Well, I've seen the claims too, and I think the claims are harebrained. It's mostly coming out of that guy in Alaska who's a medical doctor and doesn't understand electromagnetics or the frequency spectrum whatsoever. Coming out of Nick Begich.
Okay, I'm not sure of the name that who produced that particular program I saw, but.
Well, you probably saw the Jesse Ventura HAARP thing.
Oh, no.
With the host, the bald-headed guy.
Oh no, I know who Jesse Ventura is, but I don't think it was that.
Because Ventura did a show on the HAARP project, which was full of mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the statements they made were idiotic. As far as anyone goes that has a knowledge of electromagnetics and frequency spectrums and knows what the project is doing. I've looked over all the prints for the HAARP project. I know exactly what they're doing technologically.
And what kind of, I mean, we hear about the ability of HAARP. I mean, they producing.
A lot of that is just, in my opinion, looking at the designs, the abilities that are being claimed by these people are ludicrous. I'm not trying to defend the government or defend the HAARP project. I'm just trying to put the truth in here.
Right. Because the HAARP has been, that program is for some reason, it's well known, but it's not. It's only been well known for maybe the last 5 or 6 years. Even though how long has
it's been around for about 25 years. 25
years, right? But I mean, it's only come out in the mainstream. I don't even know if it hasn't. I've never seen it talked about on the mainstream, but it's only been out as far as knowledge on the internet and so on. In the last maybe 5-6 years that it's been prevalent. I've seen a lot about it, but I guess I'm confused. I don't really
a lot of that data that's on the internet on the HAARP project, as far as electromagnetics go and physics, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, a lot of that stuff.
Oh, that's interesting. All right. That's fascinating to me, because I don't have any background in electromagnetics either, so I really don't know. I really don't know how to validate that, other than just say, wow, this could possibly happen. But you're saying most of it, or a lot of it, is hogwash, huh? Just a lot of it's nonsense.
Well, let's put it this way. I have 3 college degrees in physics, electromagnetics. My last degree is what's called quantum electrodynamics, which is study of what the electron does when it jumps between reference frames or goes in and out of different parallel realities. And this is just the sort of thing the claims being made out of HAARP are attempting to say, and the data I have that I gathered when I was working for Sandia National Labs building big power supplies for their particle accelerators, the data I have does not show a mechanism to do what these people are doing with the technologies that I reviewed as a consultant on the project. So a lot of the stuff that's being put out doesn't make any sense to me.
Huh. And it just,
HAARP basically is an ionizer of the atmosphere. It's also a atmospheric heater. The idea is you take a small space, you pound a whole crap load of electromagnetic power, it's going to heat up the atmosphere, which is going to make a high. You know, high pressure. Yeah, high pressure.
Yeah, we move on high pressure.
Then you can modulate to some extent the electrojet currents going from north-south pole to the equators. You can modify that to some extent, but the power necessary to do what is being claimed by the naysayers is astronomical. Those electrojets are driven by the Earth's core and the energy from the sun.
Right.
How are you going to modulate that with maybe a few terawatts of pulse power? Mathematically, it doesn't compute, Mr. Spock.
Oh God! Well, you know,
don't misunderstand me. I'm not a proponent of HAARP. I'm not trying to smooth it over. But it's not doing everything they claim that that the nut jobs are saying it does.
Well, how about the is it a beneficial thing to us or not? HAARP, for them to be able to manipulate the weather and manipulate the atmosphere like that.
I don't think the actual manipulation is going to be all that strong. Because they're only dealing with real-world power of maybe 250 megawatts. You know, that's 250 million joules of energy. Compared to what drives the actual weather, that's just a drop in the ocean. I don't see really how they can do much with that. It's an interesting theory. It's an interesting test. It's an interesting experiment.
Now, I was told by other people, some experts who were involved with monitoring HAARP to a degree, that they were actually involved with the building of the. He was a friend of mine, Keith Snow, was actually a project manager for I believe it was General Electric.
General Dynamics.
General Dynamics, who actually created the spraying device, or the particleizing device for the back of jet engines and stuff.
Okay, we're now going into chemtrails.
Oh no, I understand, but that's all part and parcel, is not of the HAARP program. Isn't that related to the HAARP program?
No, that's a different program. It's all related in as much as trying to cool down global warming. That's definite. All of this stuff is interrelated. We're trying to cool everything down.
Right. Now this was back in the 80s when he was in charge of that research, but in the late 80s, I believe. So
it would be General Dynamics, not General Electric.
Dynamics, I'm sorry. Yep.
And actually, the project was General Dynamics up in Canada.
Yeah. All right. And that so General Dynamics, were they who were the companies that were involved with HAARP in building that?
Raytheon.
Raytheon. Okay. All right.
Now, some of the transmitters said Raytheon on them. Some of them said General Dynamics. Some of them said who the heck did Collins become? I can't think of it. It used to be the old Collins Radio Company.
Oh, really? I don't know.
It was all big communications outfits.
Right. Wow. So, just to put our minds to rest, so the HAARP program is really not capable of doing 90% of what it's been built up to you know, what so many theories have come out to say. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I would say at least 50%.
At least 50%.
At least.
And, yeah. Well, that's fascinating. I'm
more concerned about the aluminum in the sky.
Yeah, so am I. I mean, when I heard of them putting aluminum up there, and it's coming down, and it's what it's doing, and you know, the sudden astronomical increase of Alzheimer's in the last 15 or 20 years has been, you know, it just seems odd that the increase was exactly about the time when this stuff started to be put in the atmosphere.
Oh, I think it's definitely related. But medical science is saying that Alzheimer's is from aluminum poisoning, and there's no question what they're doing is aluminum poisoning.
Right, right. But yet they're saying that it's far less dangerous than being baked by the sun.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But the
it's
sun
less dangerous than global warming.
Less dangerous.
If global warming really takes off, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. Our farming is gone. We have to get a whole different source of food. The food chain will be totally destroyed if we get another 5 degrees in global warming. The food chain is gone.
So what kind of food sources do you think that possibly we would have? Cannibalism? Yeah? And what do you see? You know, what?
If that. Look, from what I've heard, our food source is totally reliant upon the algae in the sea and plants.
Really?
If the luminosity and the temperature goes up high enough, the algae is going to die off and the plants are going to die off. Once the plants and the algae dies off, there's nothing really for a lot of the lower order animal, fish, life forms, reptilian life forms to eat.
That's true. It's true. Yeah,
everything in the ocean starts as algae, and everything here starts as grass.
Yeah, yeah. My God, Preston. So, wow. So this could all happen in about a year or so, if the sun gets that hot.
This is true.
Yeah.
I don't expect much heat-wise. What I expect more is electromagnetic.
Hmm. What is your plan? What kind of a plan do you have to ward off anything, or to even survive this next year or two, if this stuff happens?
At this point, I don't know.
You don't know, huh?
I don't know at this point.
Any guesses?
Well, I guess best thing is keep quick on your feet and look at the handwriting on the wall, start preparing, put food away.
Yeah, yeah. I guess. What do you think will happen economically? I mean, you're seeing what's going on now. Every half the world, basically the entire world.
What do you think's going to happen economically if the whole computer network goes down?
Oh, it'll be a nightmare. It'll be absolutely nightmare.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our banking system is all computerized.
Right.
You better have hard copy of any bank accounts you got.
Oh, that's true.
Because if we get an EMP, the banking computers are gone. You'll have to go down to your bank and show them proof that you had this money in the accounts.
Right. Now, I would advise people probably taking all their money out at this point. I mean,
yeah, maybe it's mattress time.
It could very well be. I mean, if there's I mean, what else do you have
Fortunately for me, personally, I don't have any money in the bank, so I'm not that concerned about that.
Right.
I'm more concerned how am I going to eat my fat little gut.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my concern.
Absolutely. Yeah. But even if that became an issue, where all of the computers fried and there were no records remaining and all these monies were because let's face it, 90% of the money is electronic, now.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, my God, how do you I can't even imagine. I'm just trying to imagine how.
I really don't want to even attempt to imagine it.
I know it's too awesome. It's too mind blowing the thought.
And
so basically, it's best to keep cash. Just keep your cash in your.
And Leo, I don't know if I want to survive it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a good. That's.
If half of these predictions come true, there's going to be no place on this planet that's going to be livable.
That's true. That's really true.
If it comes down to where most people have to make a decision, either to survive and not eat, or to do themselves in, what do you think most people are going to do?
Do themselves in.
They're probably going to do themselves in.
I'd say so.
Especially the older you get, the more you realize that your life is pretty much at the end. So if it becomes too nasty, do yourself in.
Really?
Or if there's hordes running around, pillaging, the attitude might become of the old folks, okay, do me in.
Yeah.
Take whatever I got in that house. Do me in. I'm now out of this.
That's fascinating.
That's the attitude I'm beginning to see all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. What would be the effect? Do you remember Soylent Green? Remember that movie back in the 70s?
Mm-hmm. You mean human cookies?
Yeah, human cookies, exactly.
Right.
And, human cookies, and they had global warming. I mean, everybody had to. You really couldn't even be outside. It was so hot all the time, and that took place.
Does that sound like a pleasant world to live in?
No, it was a horrible nightmare of a vision, and but ever since I've seen that movie, which was back in I believe '78 or whenever it was that the movie came out, 70 something, 75. I guess I've seen so much of it over the last 30 years coming true. We see the earth warming up. We see the lack of food. We see so much of the stuff collapsing. We see police states. We see all of these things happening. And I think one of the worst things, and this always happens. It always seems to happen in Africa, where you see these incredible famines and droughts. But now we're seeing this huge drought in Texas.
Yeah, exactly.
They haven't had rain in 6 months or something like that. It's been unbelievable.
And then they've just about pumped that aquifer under Texas dry.
That's right. And now I guess they're getting a tropical storm system coming up through the Gulf. But,
and everybody's praying that it comes into Texas.
Into Texas, yeah, my God. But that's the. You're right. I mean, the vision that this brings about is so frightening. And I can understand why the government and why so many there's so much secrecy around it.
Yeah, definitely.
There's so much. Has to be so much. But
keep
when
the public fat, dumb, and happy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And in fact, I've almost wish I was more fat and more dumb and more happy because
I know what you mean.
God Almighty, you just want to go, God. But since I've been following this very, very series of politics and world events and all of these areas heavily since I've been on radio and television for the last 10 years or so, 11 years. But never before have I seen so much happening in such a short period of time. Just incredible things are happening, and I saw the other day that the time actually that George and I have talked about this a lot on our radio show, but he said that he states that the Schumann resonance has increased now, and it's almost doubled, which is the pulse of the the Earth pulse, I guess. What's your opinion on that, and how do you what do you see happening with that? I mean, it's got to be affecting us. And I just saw the other day. I just read the other day that because of this resonance, our what was 24 hours now appears to be 16 hours. In other words, we've lost over the last several years. Time has speeded up to that point where we seem to have lost 8 hours of time in a 24-hour cycle. Is that
24 hours is still 24 hours. If that was the case, our old clocks would be no good.
No, I understand that, but it's a compression. It seems to be.
Well, what people are talking of, the theory is that as we approach the end of the computer simulation that we're all part of,
right,
time is compressing, time is moving faster, although 24 hours is still 24 hours, and the sun still follows a 24-hour cycle. There is a quickening for major events coming on us closer together. And it does appear that things are quickening.
Yeah, it does.
But time is still time.
Well, there's two. I just recently I just saw two announcements. One was by Zbigniew Brzezinski, all right, who was warning. I believe he warned the Bilderbergers meeting, and then he came on Morning Joe, which was the show's daughter, his co-host, in the morning. But he stated that we're now in a time where unprecedented as far as the convulsions that are happening around the world, the political upheavals and the financial upheavals globally. He says,
yes, they're getting closer and closer together.
Yeah, and he says it's to the point where it's getting almost impossible to control the world economy or to control the governments. Okay, control people by government because it's just the people there's an awakening. There's something happening here that
there's no question.
Yeah. They can't explain it.
Leo, there's no question of what is being observed has some truth to it.
Right.
Because, yes, major events are happening closer and closer together.
I think the thing that frightened me most, the statement he made to the Bilderbergers, was that we've come to a point in time where it's easier to kill a million people than it is to control them. All right, and that was quite awesome. That was quite a frightening statement coming from a guy who the architect of the New World Order, you know. But
yes, this is true.
Yeah. So what's your opinion? Now you were saying this, and I'd like to get into that with these sources that you were talking about, and the matrix, the computer simulation. All right, that theory. What we were talking about is just fantastic. What could possibly happen is that, and I think you said it was designed to end in 214 or 218 or something like that.
Somewhere up in there, somewhere between 2017 and 2020.
Yeah.
Now, understand, there's no real hard data for this.
Right, I understand that.
This information now we're going into is basically gained from just being observant. There was a program on the Science Channel called Through the Wormhole. They had 3 segments on that show, which basically talked of, are we in a computer simulation? Is God a computer? Is time travel possible? And what are the, what's the possibility of parallel realities? When you put this all together, you realize, oh my God, we are in a computer simulation. The strongest evidence is the pixelization that comes out of quantum physics. The idea of quanta is it goes from, everything's blinking on and off at a very, very fast rate. From less than a nanosecond to less than a nanosecond to less than a nanosecond. In that we get like a picture that we're in, then it dies for a nanosecond or less, then we get another picture. What does that sound like? That sounds like a video display.
Yeah, really.
And that's
really.
pixelation.
Yeah.
Our whole reality, this bunch built a vision, and in my opinion, they proved it, that our reality is pixelated, which says it's out of a computer.
That's amazing.
It's out of some sort of technological display. Now, what I picked up on my vision questing was it appears about 10 million years ago, there were 2 galaxies, the Milky Way, which is not as we know it now, and right next door was a second galaxy which was being known as the Sagittarian galaxy. And the Sagittarian galaxy collided into the Milky Way galaxy. This was in real world, not computer simulated.
Right.
And at that point, a major war broke out between the 2 galaxies. A truce was called, and the truce was set up to, okay, we got a problem. Let's set up this supercomputer simulation that will run about 10 million years, and at the end of it, we should have the solution. And that's us. We're the computer simulation. And it's headed towards around 2018, if the computer doesn't fail ahead of that. There is indications that the computer is failing right now, and that our simulation is starting to fold up.
Wow. But with this solar storms that are coming, if we are computer simulations, if the Earth is a computer simulation, then essentially
the whole Milky Way galaxy we think is.
Oh my God. Then we're definitely destined to end, or at least be disrupted. Like our computers.
Yep.
But we'll be. But I think that the most is perhaps the most frightening scenario to this is that, and at the same time possibly not frightening, but I believe we've been doing a lot of research on the Mayan prophecies, but we've also been looking at a lot of different prophecies and revelation and so on and so forth. But I strongly believe in multidimensional realities, like in 4th dimension, 5th dimension, this kind of thing. Now, if we are, say, locked in this dimension, the 3rd dimension right now, there's no question in my mind, because I believe I've seen it, I believe I've experienced 4th dimensional reality, as well as, and I've read and so much on 5th dimensional, as well as further on. What's your take on that? Do you believe that we may leap, do a quantum leap into another dimension?
Oh, this could be how the ending of the simulation appears.
Oh.
Our simulation right now has 7 parallel reference frames, with this one that we're in being number 4. 3 on each side.
I see.
And, our minds bounce around between all 7. But since our physicality is here, our minds concentrate on here.
Right.
But superconsciously, subconsciously, whatever you want to call it, we're continually bouncing around between the other reference frames, or if you want to call them dimensions.
Well, I think, to me, the evidence to that has always been that whatever you focus upon, you can bring to, you can create, and we're I guess the only species on Earth that has the ability for displacement, to be able to see in the future, or see in the past, but definitely see in the future, and for that create the future to what we want it to be. So if that's the case, if that's real, and I believe it is, because we're manifesting everything daily, every minute of the day. That if there was a unity consciousness, if there was a unity focus on survival, or even on ascension, okay, or fourth dimensional existence, if people could, if you had the whole world seeing fourth dimension, or fifth dimension, beyond this reality, what do you think that reality could manifest itself, that other dimension?
Sure, it's highly possible.
I thought so. I mean, I think it could, because even individually, I believe it can. Because in meditations.
Well, you got to remember, we are part of the simulation. We're also the simulation, and because of that, we can affect the simulation.
We can affect it, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that makes all kinds of sense. But if we can affect
I'm
it,
interested in what happens after it's all over.
Right, like you said,
whether it ends at 2012, whether it ends at 2020, or whether it ends at 2700 something.
Right.
I'm interested in what is it when it's all over.
Yeah.
And whether or not I should continue the research on age regression. If it's all going to end in a few years, there's no sense of that.
No, well, you're familiar with the, I know you're familiar with the Philadelphia experiment and Montauk and all of that. But according to Al Bielek, who was one of the survivors, he saw into the year 2795 or something like that. All right.
I think he says 2755.
Oh, 55? Something to that.
What those people that come to me say we're from the group, is the Wingmakers, and I got on that's the year 2750s.
So you've actually spoken to the Wingmakers, or you've seen them? Yeah. And now are they part dolphin, part man?
The ones I saw looked mostly human.
Mostly human. Yeah.
They had fish eyes.
With fish eyes?
Yeah.
Yeah. But Al said that what he saw, I guess there were only 500,000 people left on the planet.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And he said that all of the buildings were they were above ground. They're not above ground, but basically they were floating on it they discovered anti-gravity, and he said that the buildings were actually weren't even in the ground. They were, and whether that was to prevent earthquakes or what, we
really don't know
why that was, but whatever it was,
the Wingmakers aren't very forthcoming with data on themselves.
Oh, okay. Now, where are they from?
They're from Earth.
They are from
They
Earth.
say they're from the 2750s, that their society started in the 2500s, and the group that comes and visits is from the 2750s, is what they've been telling me. They took me back there once or twice, actually twice. And
So you've actually traveled as well.
I didn't see anything floating.
Yeah. So you've actually traveled to, you've done time travel through there. I mean, I've been on your machine, so I know what amazing stuff you've created there, what amazing effect you've created. So I can only imagine what you've done, with other experiments. But what is your take? I mean, are these people like mutations from the whatever, or is it a different dimension? Is it transdimensional?
No, it looks like a three-dimensional end-time world that I saw.
Right.
The people were essentially human. Their aura fields were totally different from ours. Their auric fields were much more dynamic than ours, and much stronger. So I would say probably some sort of mutation took place.
Probably. But I just wanted to mention to those listening tonight, we've got about 3 minutes, 2 minutes or so left to the live stream. And we'll probably go on a little bit longer after that. It'll be recorded on the archives. But if you're interested in calling in and asking and listening to the show further, or just maybe asking Preston a question or two, please call 646-915-9505. Again, that's 646-915-9505 in the next 2 minutes, and I can put you on. Okay. Now, Preston, I'm totally fascinated by that, and by this group of people from the future. But did you see humans in that future?
Hello?
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes, I did see what looked like humans, but they had different eyes.
Oh, just different eyes. Okay. So nobody
That seemed to be the main difference, and they allowed me to scan their aura fields, and as I explained, it was entirely different.
Did you notice any races or different, like were some black or brown, or were they white, or were they, was there any real color distinction there between them, or were they green, or I mean, what was their physical appearance other than the eyes?
Well, they had typical body hair on the head. They had absolutely no hair anywhere else on the body. They were bipedal.
Were they wearing
They were
clothing?
humanoid in structure.
Were they wearing clothes, or were they clothed, or were they not?
Yes, they were clothed.
They were clothed.
Of course, to do an aura scan, I asked either of the guys, "Hey, can you get naked?" They said, "Oh yeah, no problem." Because I found clothing generally interferes with my ability to scan auras, and it may also have something to do with more psi ability that I have that I don't understand. And that's when I realized, when the one guy was undressed, I could see there was very little difference between him and us. It mainly appeared to be the eyes. He was light-skinned, light-haired, tall. I would say this character was maybe 6'6", 6'7". I would guess he weighed somewhere around 190, 210 pounds. He didn't seem to be that fat. He was pretty well developed muscularly. He didn't have a hard body, but he didn't have a soft body. And he had 5 fingers, 5 toes on his feet.
So it just seems like it was, aside from the eyes.
He had what looked like a normal genitalia. He had normal-looking buttocks. His
So he was
body
basically
structure was generally humanoid.
humanoid, yeah. Huh. But the only difference was his eyes.
Yeah, that's what actually stood out as a difference was the eyes. And when this character looked at you, you could feel it.
Oh, that's fascinating. And that's exactly what that's pretty much what Al said about his experience with that.
Yeah, he never told me that.
Oh, he didn't. Oh, no. He mentioned that they were the. He said that they looked like they were part dolphin, part. But he said it was the same. What was the name? What was the name he gave them?
Wingmakers.
Wingmakers. Yeah. He said those were the ones that he came in contact with.
Well, the reason I call them wingmakers is when they appear.
Right.
When they come for a visit, they say, we represent a group you know as the Wingmakers.
Oh, okay.
I actually know what their real name that they call themselves is, but they asked me not to publicize it.
Okay.
So that I got to keep to myself.
Oh, that's okay. But overall, what was their level of I mean, what was their technology like? What was their were they telepathic? How were they communicating? Were they talking like we're talking, or were they?
No, they were communicating telepathically with me.
Telepathically.
And the technology I saw was very advanced light and electronic technology.
Now, I want to ask you this because I don't know. I'm sure you must know about Peter Moon's new books, The Transylvanian Sunrise and Moonrise.
Yeah.
Have you? Yeah. What's your take on the on the underground civilizations or the or 50,000-year-old holographic vaults, and these kind of things? That do you think that I mean, he's seen them, or he's talked about them, and he's going over, I guess, next month to see them, but or to see the vaults. What's your take on that? Do you believe that that this kind of knowledge or advanced knowledge could have existed 50,000 years ago? The way?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
We seem to be going through a cycle every 26,000 years, like the researchers on 2012 are saying, where we seem to get an advanced technological situation coming up every so often. And I have no trouble.
Sorry. No, and then it appears like every 26,000 years there's some devastating flood or devastating polar shift that annihilates like 95% of the population. Does that sound? Your research is that real, or is that just something that we've made up, or what?
Oh, it's definitely speculation. It's based upon real facts about the precession of the equinoxes. And there is, what isn't publicized is, in caves there's been pieces of very ancient technology discovered that wasn't made in this time and was more advanced.
Now, I was talking to, in fact, tomorrow night we have a guest on, a guy named Ross Hamilton. I don't know if you're familiar with him, with his work, but he talks about the serpent mounds and the archaeological finds in North America, and how they relate to they call these serpent mounds, which created this energy, which creates this energy that almost like orgone energy. All right.
Like what?
Orgone.
Mm-hmm. Well, orgone. You experienced some of it right here.
What's that?
When you visited Cairo here, you experienced some of the orgone energy coming out of the mountains.
That's correct. Yeah. And I know you had mentioned that, and that's exactly. It was that that energy, is that what was transmitted through that machine? Your sound machine? Is that part of it?
Yep.
That's part of it, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah, the
So
activity of my sound system is reliant upon the location quite a bit.
Right.
Because we packed everything up a couple of times, took it to different locations, and it didn't perform like that.
Oh. But you're actually on top of a pyramid, right?
Yes.
That's actually built on a peak of a pyramid, underground pyramid.
Yes.
You know, and no, I mean I can attest to the effects that it had on me, and you know, it was definitely what
Well, it's
transformed.
that effect, that equipment that I use to interrogate, if you want to put it that way, our universe and try to pick up what's actually going on in the quantum background and what's going on in our solar system, our galaxy.
Now, the interesting thing that I wanted to mention was that when Ross was mentioning that the Adena, which are which is an ancient race of that were in North America. Actually, I guess they're from most around the world. But the Adena actually had a technology that was based on orgone energy and worked through crystal. Are you familiar with
Yeah, this has been suggested a number of times. There is some evidence for a light and electron-based crystalline technology.
Right. But what they did is something to the effect that they had all the they had lamps. I don't know if it's symbolic or not, but it had lanterns or lamps in the temples, and they were all powered by this energy. And what happened was that over time, a great amount of time, the energy faded, and the understanding of the orgone energy left the culture, and the lights faded. The temple lights faded, and the energy was no longer able to produce, I guess, the same effects. But supposedly, according to Russ, they actually would use that. There was a specific crystal that they used that they could actually purify water with, okay, or purify everything to create the entire, more like an Eden environment, you know, rejuvenate the entire environment. Now,
well, that I have no trouble believing, because a friend of mine, before he died, Marcel Vogel, had a crystal that you passed water through a pipe that had the crystal in it. You had the good tasting wine come out the other end of it. I actually saw it.
Wow.
And he wasn't doing any trick.
But what did
I
he do?
Believe what they're saying on that aspect.
Yeah.
That they had crystals that could process the quantum energy or could purify water. This I've already seen.
Yeah, see that. So now this is so fascinating to me, because if you have the power there, and I'm not really, I don't really fully understand the orgone energy as to, I mean, it's what is it basically, earth energy, or what is orgone energy?
It's basically electrical energy, but it's coming through different parallel realities, parallel reference frames.
Oh.
This is why vacuum tube technology processes orgone energy, because the quantum well that forms in the tube when you hook it up right crosses all 7 different parallels. And this is how the human being generates orgone energy, by basically bouncing electrical activity through the brain, through the interphotometry structures in the brain, into the other parallel realities, and back and forth. And
so how do we recognize these parallel realities that we commonly seem to be jumping from one to another. I don't know. How do we recognize that? How do we recognize it in our lives, in our...
Well, if you're purely physical, brain-based in your consciousness, you're not going to realize it.
Oh.
Because 99.99% of the human beings on the planet, basically, the mind is damaged, and you don't have any conscious sensing, any conscious feeling. You don't have any conscious operations into the non-physical mind. You know, most every human being is just aware of what's in his physical mind, in the physical brain. This is what makes someone who's extremely psychic, sensitive psychic person, psi ability, is that this person would be more conscious and aware of what's going on in the non-physical mind, aka the brain activity as it jumps between parallel realities.
So do you think it's really 99.9 of the people are that way?
Oh, yeah.
And one-tenth of a percent are clairvoyant or of a spiritual nature?
I'm not talking about capability. I'm talking about who really is.
Ah, yeah. Who we really
We
are.
all have that capability. We all have the non-physical consciousness that echoes between the 7 parallels. But we're only aware of the 4th parallel, which is what we physically exist in. When we're born, we have that. But as we grow up, our mind gets shattered, our mind breaks up, and we lose that ability to cross over into the non-physical mind on a conscious level.
Okay. I see. I've always, for some reason, gone. I don't know. Maybe I'm not saying that my mind isn't damaged like everyone else's, but I've always had the ability to seem to transcend the reality, if you will, or at least be aware that there was another reality, there was another dimension, or another that was there, that you could hop into, that there was, that you could change, that you could change from your present state to another altered state, but I never really understood the 7 parallels. Are they? Can you? And you're saying that most people are living in the 4th parallel. Is that correct?
Yeah, right.
What is the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd?
The 1st, 2nd, and 3rd is actually the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd on one side. And the other side has the 5th, 6th, and 7th. I personally believe that we're looking at actually 4 parallels, but just as we have good and evil, there's good and evil in every one of them. The 1st, 2nd, and 3rd appears to represent the good side of creation. And, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd is the bad side. And the 5th, 6th, and 7th is the good side.
Oh.
And it's all seems to be driven by odd and even multiples of pi over 2.
So you're saying that 1st and 2nd are the good side.
No,
3rd
1st
and
and
4th.
2nd, to me, the 1st and 2nd and 3rd is the bad side, the negative side.
Oh, it's a negative side. Okay, it's
the
a lower,
destructive side.
the lower harmonics, the lower vibration.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the 5th, 6th, and 7th is the good side or the constructive side.
Well, we're stuck in the 4th.
We're stuck in the 4th, yes. Physically.
Where we have the influences of both.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you pull to the 5th, let's say,
now,
parallel.
I'm not convinced that there isn't a link between, for instance, the 1st and the 7th, and the 2nd and the 3rd, the 2nd and the 6th, and the 3rd and the 5th. I'm not convinced that it's not the same reality, but totally separated. to good over
well,
here and bad over there.
Well, they've always talked about the. I've read so much over the years of the lower vibrations. Okay, you know, the lower vibrations, which are the earth, not the earth, but the more animal, more physical vibrations.
We're not talking about the same vibrations. We're talking about spiritual vibrations now.
Okay, spiritual vibration. Yeah, well, that's true, but that's affected
it's the
by
spirituality that gets into the parallel world's quantum physics.
But the spirit is contaminated basically by the lower vibrations or the lower parallels, isn't it? I mean, if that's the case, I mean, George always says, what is it? Where human beings having where spirits having a human experience, but that's basically probably true. Where from what I've seen and what I've read over time is that as spirits we've actually either volunteered to come into this through our karmic evolution, or we are trapped here, imprisoned here. I don't know. What's your take on that? Do you feel that we're
I don't know either.
Do you feel that there's I mean, I remember you stated that you had a number of past life experiences, or you went through a past life regression.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct? And had a number of things. And I know that I went through a past life regression and found myself I went through 10 lives actually, but I know that I do believe in reincarnation, and I do believe in karma. So it both seem to make a lot of sense. But how do you feel at this point? Do you think at the end of this computer simulation, do you think there will no longer be that what we've experienced over time, these multiple reincarnations, probably no longer will exist because physical reality won't exist any longer?
Well, what it looks like, once we come out of the simulation, there's going to be a group of beings that will be like all the people that the computer says are good and want to be saved will be put together in a few consciousness units, and this whole thing started all over again. But in the next, next mathematical dimensional structure that's above our fourth dimensional world.
Because
right now we have length, width, height, and time. So we're really a four-dimensional world. There'll then be length, width, height, time, and something else. I don't know how to define at this point.
How about if we're on a cycle, let's say a time cycle? Well, maybe not even a cycle, but we're on a time. Well, I mean, our existence is time and space related. Do we?
Yes, time and space is related.
No, time and space is what we exist in. It seems like that's our dimension. According to the Mayans' prophecy, that time and space will no longer be where we are. We won't be trapped, or not trapped, but embodied in a time-space prison. We'll have ascended to a higher reality, a higher
Well,
dimension.
this is what I saw.
This is what you saw?
Yeah.
As far as us ascending.
We go through some sort of a judgment scenario by somebody, whether it's a computer, whether it's God, whether it's some highly evolved alien, I don't know, but we go through some sort of judgment, and those of us who are considered to be worthy end up being condensed into a smaller number of units and brought out in a higher dimensionality.
Oh, okay. So, yeah.
But this is all very vague from what I've seen.
But what I've read is exactly the same thing. But this agrees with the rapture, the Christian rapture. It agrees with the Mayan ascension, and it agrees with so much of the religions, so many of the different religious.
Yeah, it sounds like the biblical judgment. You know,
yeah, exactly. The only thing that I could never understand, and I don't really understand this part. But maybe you might. When they talk about the 144,000, all right, in Revelation.
You mean the minion?
Exactly. What do you have any idea or guess as to what that might be? Who those 144,000 are, or what they represent?
Well, the galaxy being said to me that we'll probably condense down to about 500,000 intelligence units for this planet.
Wow. Wow.
Which is, more than 144,000.
Let's say the 500,000. Will they have normal life cycles or lifespans, or will they be immortal?
That's a good question. I don't know for sure.
I wonder. According to these things, we're no longer bound to the physical, our physical realities. So, I would say that we'd probably morph back into our spiritual beings, back into spiritual beings. If we
whatever that is.
Whatever that is, yeah, whatever that is. But it can be verified through psychics, and through, through readings, sensitive electromagnetic readings. They can pick up phenomena, spiritual phenomena, stuff that we don't see but is there, poltergeists and whatnot. So, and the fact, I think what always amazed me is that we exist in 10% light, so and the rest, 90% of the universe is in darkness. Is that an accurate figure or no?
I don't know if it's accurate, but it's something like that.
Yeah, it's something phenomenal like that.
Yeah.
That we only know or can only see.
I'm not sure that 10% is light. Light in the universe may actually be less than 10%.
Oh, wow. Possibly, yeah.
Well, they're looking for the dark matter that's supposed to fill our universe.
Right. And I was curious.
One of the things for the super colliders is they're looking to generate dark matter.
Ah, right. And, isn't that what the black holes are?
That's a good question. It's hard to say.
Yeah, because once we know that all light gets sucked, all the planets and everything seems to get sucked.
Everything will be sucked into a black hole if the mathematics that Stephen Hawking has come up with is correct. Everything will be sucked in.
Yeah,
if it's within range.
Yeah, and there's a number of black holes. There's many black holes in the universe, but
no one has actually detected a black hole. What they've seen is the results of what the theoretical results of the black hole would be. This has been observed in a number of different spots in our universe.
Right. Now,
of course, it's being postulated that black holes exist. It's possible there's some other phenomenon going on. Who knows?
I read that also the sun, or there are also possibly white holes, okay, that are portals to something, to alternate universe, alternate dimensions. I'm not sure, but I know George has brought up this concept, and I believe some other people I've spoken to or read that the sun is a portal.
It's very possible.
It's very possible.
Leo, I gotta get going. I'm starting to drop out here.
That's okay.
I'm happy that I've been able to hold up an hour and a half.
Well, I'm very happy too, and I'd love to have you back. And
sure.
future. And I hope we can get a chance to come down and see you again maybe in a month or so when you're feeling better.
You guys are welcome.
Thank you. We'd love to come down. And in the meantime, I want to thank you again. And it was a fascinating talk, and I learned a lot tonight. And I hope to have you on again very soon.
Yep,
all right,
definitely.
Preston? All right.
And the pleasure's been mine, Leo.
Mine as well. And
okay.
Have a pleasant evening, okay?
You
Good night.
too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
And I want to thank everybody.